breaking. Everything you thought you knew about this war is already outdated. In the first hours of the invasion, Ukraine was expected to collapse within days. That was the assumption, that was the plan. But more than 4 years later, the reality is the complete opposite. And it's rewriting the rules of modern warfare in real time. Ukraine is not just surviving. It is evolving faster, sharper, and far more dangerous than before. While Moscow remains locked in old doctrines built on brute force, Kyiv has shifted the battlefield entirely, turning precision, speed, and innovation into its most lethal weapons. And now the balance is breaking. Because this is no longer about holding territory, it's about dismantling an entire war machine from the inside out. Command chains are being disrupted, strategic assets are being targeted, and most critically, the financial lifeline fueling the Kremlin's war is under constant attack. This isn't a stalemate anymore. This is a turning point. And the question that's now shaking analysts worldwide is simple. If Ukraine keeps accelerating like this, how long can Russia actually hold? Listen to this. Bill Browder, the financier and fierce anti-corruption campaigner, who has become one of the sharpest voices on the economic dimensions of Russia's aggression, puts it perfectly. Russia has made catastrophic tactical mistakes throughout 4 years of war. But the real game changer is that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is finished waiting for Western governments to impose meaningful economic pressure. Instead, Ukraine is doing it directly, with devastating strikes on Russian oil refineries and attacks on the so-called Shadow Fleet vessels that Moscow uses to dodge sanctions. Every refinery taken offline, every tanker disabled, is a direct blow to the revenue stream that keeps Putin's war machine running. Ukraine is striking Russia where it hurts most, turning the Kremlin's own economic lifeline into a battlefield of fire and smoke. The numbers tell the story of Ukraine's relentless offensive. According to the Carnegie Endowment, Ukraine has knocked out around 38% of Russia's oil refining capacity through relentless drone and missile attacks. While Russia retains some cushion of excess production, the net loss in fuel export capability still sits between 6 and 9%, a painful wound that widens every month. This damage was inflicted across 120 major attacks throughout 2025, most of which successfully struck critical infrastructure. The pace only accelerated in 2026, with 40 strikes in January and February alone hammering at least 13 vital targets. One of the hardest hits came at the Volgograd oil refinery, where Ukrainian forces shut down 40% of its production capacity. That single facility once accounted for roughly 5% of pre-war fuel exports. Ukraine's precision strikes have systematically cut Russia off from the resources it needs to sustain its aggression, proving that Kyiv is now dictating the economic tempo of the war. This dramatic shift in reach is no accident. Early in the conflict, Ukraine depended entirely on the limited range of Western-supplied weapons. By 2025 and 2026, that limitation has been shattered by homegrown innovation. The Kyiv-based private defense company Firepoint stands at the center of this revolution. Founded in mid-2022 by a group of engineers, architects, and game designers working in makeshift workshops, Firepoint has exploded into a powerhouse with more than 2,000 employees operating across multiple concealed production facilities around Kyiv. Their FP-9 one-way attack drone has become the workhorse of Ukraine's deep strike campaign. With a range of roughly 620 miles, a warhead exceeding 60 pounds, and a modular design built for electronic warfare resilience, the FP-9 has carried out more than 60% of all Ukrainian deep strikes inside Russian territory. That means the majority of headline-making attacks on ammunition depots, oil refineries, and military command centers over the past year were delivered by this single domestically produced platform. A weapon born from Ukrainian ingenuity and hatred for the invader. The FP-2 takes the fight to hardened structures with a heavier payload, but a shorter range of 130 miles perfectly suited for smashing command centers and halting Russian advances into Ukrainian soil. In early 2026, Firepoint's co-founder and chief designer Denis Schleiderman announced plans to upgrade the platform with a 98-pound warhead promising even greater destructive power. Above both sits the FP-9 Flamingo, Ukraine's own cruise missile, capable of carrying a staggering 2,540-pound warhead over a range of up to 1,900 miles. Its airframe uses radar-transparent fiberglass, winding a technique normally reserved for ballistic missiles, allowing it to slip past Russian air defenses like a ghost. Production ramped up in mid-2025, targeting 210 units per month by autumn. The Flamingo has already proven itself in combat, striking Russia's Kapustin Yar test range in January 2026, and in a separate operation hitting an Iskander missile production plant deep inside Russia. Imagine the bitter irony: a Ukrainian-built cruise missile destroying the very factories that produce the missiles Russia rains on Ukrainian cities. That is the level of payback Ukraine is delivering. The pinnacle of Firepoint's ambition is the FP-9 short-range ballistic missile. With a range of around 500 miles, a 1,700-pound warhead, and a terminal velocity of roughly Mach 6.5, it travels more than 3 times faster than Russia's Iskander at impact. Air defense systems have a fraction of the time to react, and given Russia's steady losses of S-400 batteries, widespread deployment of the FP-9 could accelerate Ukraine's campaign of economic destruction by missile. The most important detail is that none of these systems rely on NATO or Western constraints. American ATACMS missiles are capped at roughly 190 miles to avoid deep strikes inside Russia. Everything that has reached Moscow or struck interior infrastructure has been built in Ukraine by Ukrainians who refuse to wait for permission. If the FP-9 reaches full production, it could threaten Moscow and St. Petersburg themselves, turning the heart of the aggressor into a legitimate target zone. Beyond the weapons, Ukraine has tackled a systemic problem that once crippled its drone campaign. On March 10th, Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, appointed in January 2026, specifically to sharpen Ukraine's technological edge, signed a sweeping order that completely restructures how the country buys drones. The old system was riddled with opaque deals and corruption risks that left frontline soldiers modifying broken equipment in the trenches. The new system is ruthless and data-driven. Military units submit requests based on real needs. The General Staff compiles a procurement list using only technical specifications, no brand names, no favored manufacturers. 5 digital battlefield data systems then decide what gets bought. E-Points tracks real combat effectiveness. DOT, Chain, and Brave. One Market reflect actual ground-level demand in Delta, and Mission Control provides synchronization and analytics. If a drone fails to fly or hit targets, the system simply removes all demand for it. 80% of procurement funds now go exclusively to proven systems, while 20% is reserved for rapid innovation and combat testing without bureaucratic delays. Fedorov called this 20% the fast lane for new technology. Ukraine can now test a fresh drone design at scale within weeks instead of months, a speed that leaves Russia's sluggish defense industry in the dust. The scale of Ukraine's defense industry has been transformed beyond recognition. In February 2022, Ukraine had 7 drone manufacturers. Today it has more than 500. Electronic warfare companies have grown from 2 to more than 200. Private missile manufacturers went from 0 to more than 20. Unmanned ground vehicle companies rose from none to more than 100. This explosive growth has kept Ukraine ahead in the innovation race despite Russia's numerical edge. On the electronic battlefield, Ukraine is also countering Russia's fiber optic guided FPV drones, the so-called waiters that lurk in ambush and strike without radio signals. Russian telegram channels recently shared footage of a Ukrainian-directed energy weapon, most likely the Sunray laser system tracking a fiber optic cable and shutting the drone down in seconds. The laser, demonstrated as car trunk-sized and capable of burning small drones out of the sky almost instantly, could flip the counter-drone race on its head. Powered by electricity, the cost per engagement is far lower than the price of the attacking drone itself. A revolutionary shift that turns the economics of drone warfare upside down. On the ground, the battlefield picture in February 2026 shows Ukraine in a markedly stronger position than at the start of the year, according to the Institute for the Study of War. Russia failed to achieve almost any of its winter objectives. Russian troops advanced quickly on the Huliipol and Oleksandrivsky axes in late October and early November 2025, hoping to link up with operations near Orikhiv and push towards Zaporizhia while bypassing Ukraine's fortified lines. The plan had logic on paper, but collapsed under Ukrainian resistance. Russia's winter missile and drone campaign against Ukraine's energy infrastructure caused civilian hardship, yet failed to sever the power network near the front or slow Ukraine's defense industry, which Defense Ministry advisor Hanna Vazdyar confirmed had increased production 50-fold since 2022 and reached an estimated $50 billion in output. Russian infiltration tactics with light motorized forces led to heavy losses because Ukrainian forces cut off follow-on troops, leaving isolated squads stranded deep in enemy territory. In late January 2026, Ukraine launched a powerful counteroffensive that exploited exactly those weaknesses. Ukrainian forces pushed Russian units out of parts of Dnipropetrovsk. Oblast liberated more than 150 square miles of territory in less than a month, and returned more land than they lost in mid to late summer for the first time since the 2023 counteroffensive. Russia was forced to redeploy elite airborne and naval infantry units from the Pokrovsk and Dobropilya sectors to the southern front, burning through reserves originally saved for a spring offensive. Units like the 656th Motorized Rifle Regiment, unseen on the battlefield since August 2025, were thrown into desperate defensive actions. Russia is now spending its planned offensive reserves on defense months ahead of schedule, a clear sign of operational exhaustion. Russia's deeper problems run even further. Recruitment dropped to 422,000 contract soldiers in 2025. A 6% decline from 450,000 the year before. Some regions have slashed sign-up bonuses due to economic strain. Russian losses have exceeded new recruits, with December 2025 seeing 33,200 killed and wounded against only 27,400 new contracts. Moscow needs roughly 45,000 monthly recruits to sustain serious offensives in 2026. But is barely reaching 2/3 of that number. To compensate, Russia has expanded special contingents to include prisoners, criminal suspects, debtors, and foreign recruits lured from Africa and South America with false promises. The Kremlin is draining its own society to keep the war going while Ukraine builds smarter, faster, and more lethal systems. Ukraine's hatred for the aggressor has forged a war machine that refuses to be broken. Russia's hatred has produced only stagnation, heavy losses, and strategic collapse. The contrast could not be clearer. While Putin clings to outdated mass assaults and shadow fleets, Ukraine innovates with domestic drones, missiles, and lasers that strike deeper and smarter every month. What do you think about this dramatic turnaround? Is Ukraine's combination of innovative weapons and economic strikes finally enough to force Russia into a corner it cannot escape? Or will Moscow find a way to regroup before the spring offensives begin? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now because we read every single one, and it shapes our next coverage of this fast-moving war. The battlefield belongs to Ukraine right now, with precision strikes and unbreakable resolve turning the tide against a fading Russian machine. Stay locked in here for the fastest updates because the next Ukrainian breakthrough could come at any moment. If this rapid breakdown of Ukraine's growing dominance over Russia kept you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button, subscribe for every breaking development, and share it with everyone tracking this high-stakes conflict. What other explosive theater in the war should we cover next? Tell us below. Until the next urgent report, this is your frontline source for unfiltered, lightning-fast coverage of the hottest conflict zones on the planet. Disclaimer: this video contains content generated or supported in whole or in part by artificial intelligence. This material is intended solely for simulation, illustration, and entertainment purposes. It does not represent real-world events, nor does it constitute political or military advice or verified information. Certain elements may be fictional, dramatized, or inaccurate. Viewers should not rely on this video as a credible source of information or as a basis for real-world decision-making.